Welcome back to the second day of ELET's Digital Pharma Summit. We welcome our industry panelists to discuss on trends in technology, customer experience, and patient engagement. We are delighted to welcome Dr. Subhash C. Mandal, Vice President and Chairman, Regulatory Affairs Division, Indian Pharmaceutical Association. Welcome, sir. Mr. Kaushal Shetty, Global Director, Digital and Technology, Pfizer. Welcome, sir. Mr. Sumit Chandana, Head of Digital Transformation, Commercial Innovation and Strategy, Cipla. Welcome, sir. Dr. Vishal Rajgaria, Director and CEO, Fincare Pharmaceuticals Limited, and Mr. Anil Gidwani, Director, Dana Pharmaceuticals. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you.
Session will be moderated by Mr. Ninad Takpare, who heads Enterprise Sales Team at Gupshup. He has over 21 years of leadership experience in effectively managing large teams across enterprise and retail sales, business development, and strategic alliance with reputed companies. He has been a successful entrepreneur with his own venture, which he exited quite recently. Over to you, Mr. Ninad.
Thank you so much, Garima, and thanks so much for ELETS to give this opportunity in terms of moderating such a fantastic panel out here with eminent experts from pharma domain. I'm so very excited to look forward and get more insights and interesting discussion way forward during the course in time. The opportunity of moderation is something which I've been looking forward to. Primarily for one single reason is to interact with some of the domain experts that you are, right? And get most of the vibes and most of the insights from pharma industry, which could be then inculcated into developing some of the critical solutions around the platform that we have. But yeah, to set the tone for this panel discussion, I would like to generally brief on what has happened in recent past and then take it forward as a cue to set the tone for the discussion as such. As all of us, we know that the global pandemic has transformed human lives world over, and its effects is also visible in the way patient engagement is being undertaken by ever-evolving healthcare industry. The pandemic has altered healthcare industry in a manner it was never seen before, right? And pharma industry has been undergoing a revolutionary digital transformation in due course in time recently. The pandemic has expedited a whole bunch of things, especially the technology adoption which is required to happen for various industries, especially in the healthcare industry. It has expedited to a largest extent. Some of the experts within the industry have been quoting saying that had it been the case not being pandemic there, you would have gone through the digital transformation journey for next almost a decade. But unfortunately, thanks to pandemic, we had to juggle around so many things and come back with our digital transformation initiatives pretty much within last 2 years time. Most of the action could happen, right? Industries such as the healthcare, which is so very process heavy, and it is always a resource constraint. It has stand to gain a lot of benefit with the technology adoption which is happening. Today we have a fantastic panel like you who are the experts from pharma industry. Here we are here to discuss the trends in technology, customer experience, and patient engagement that is being witnessed by healthcare industry. I'm opening this panel and I look forward to get great insights from eminent panelists present with us today. I would like to put up first topic of discussion to all of you. Maybe you can put in your initial thought on this so that we can set the tone for the discussion as such. The first topic for discussion has been, which has been really tinkering my mind to put it across to you, is has the pandemic given an opportunity to pharma companies to radically rethink and focus on building end customer relationships into the core business models, right? Has it been the case in general out there within the pharma industry or not? Would love to understand your thoughts on this, Dr. Subhash, to begin with.
So, Dr. Ninad, for giving me this opportunity to initiate the discussion.
Actually, sir, I'm yet not a doctor, but yeah, I guess through this panel discussion, I should be able to get some micro element which could lead my journey towards being a doctor.
Okay, thank you very much. The thing is that now it is a fact that informed patient can take their health decision properly, and it is required to engage the patient and empower them to improve the healthcare outcome. This is the primary need which is being felt during this pandemic, and the changes in technology and the healthcare ecosystem are increasing the patient's role in decision making and reshaping the expectation from health providers. This is driven by several factors like patient ability to change their own outcome based on their behavior, financial scrutiny, then the industry shift towards evaluating outcome of determining value derived to the patient. The third component, the availability of technology solution, empowering patient with more information and the ability to play an active role in managing their well-being. These are the new development, the new trend, what the patient are expecting. And we need to empower them to fulfill their desire. And the benefits which are being shared by both the patient as well as the providers. Our patients are getting benefit, obtaining assistance from filling of prescription, receiving supplies, and they are also getting emotional support in different form from the providers like healthcare professional as well as the pharmaceutical companies. That is the expectation. And the other way, the pharmaceutical companies get assurance that their product is administered and delivered as intended in their way that they optimize efficacy and outcome. In both way, patient as well as the providers, they are being benefited. And the one trend is being set up by the policy makers by changing the policy. Say, for example, the new drug and clinical trial rules have been amended to introduce some new provisions to protect the subjects' rights and empowering them by inclusion of elaborate informed consent procedure and paying compensation in case of the grievous heart and death. As well as the trial sponsors are also providing patients with a point of contact during trial and assisting with translating from clinical to commercial drugs. And very unfortunately, a little effort has been done in general to empower the patient in our country. The patients are paying for their own treatment, but their opinion is hardly being taken in case of treatment options to be followed. Even they have not been empowered to choose affordable treatment using generic medicines and the other options, adopting other options. Several attempts has been made, like erstwhile MCI, they have passed one legislation where they advise the prescriber should prescribe in generic medicines as much as possible. And some state government is also made some legislation so that the prescribers prescribes in generic, but that is not being followed properly. So these are all different aspects which is being evolved from the need and from the patient. Their expectation need to be fulfilled, and some companies, they are also taking some measures. This is my initial comment on the whole issue.
Thank you, Dr. Subhash. In fact, really appreciate. In fact, you touched base upon one critical element, which is policymaking changes, which policymakers could swiftly move on and could incorporate those changes so that things could be expedited, right? Whatever it was required during the pandemic in terms of treatments for the patients which are desired could be made available. So has been the case with vaccination, right? So thanks for that input. Sumit, you would want to comment on this particular aspect?
Sure, Ninad. And I was listening intently to Dr. Subhash. I think from a pharma company's point of view and Cipla in particular, we were very, very focused on when the first wave came in trying to make sure that whatever treatment comes close to COVID, we bring it to the country. And I think all our efforts were around that. And when Remdesivir and Favipiravir came in, we took pride in the fact that we were the early ones to bring the entire portfolio for COVID management. So in that sense, a lot of effort was put in towards business development, making sure drugs are available. But of course, I think the first wave, we still were not too sure about the duration, like most people. So there was a tendency to downplay the extent of digital transformation that we would undergo. It is only with time that it sunk in that this is here to stay, and the acceleration of that decade transformation is going to happen in a few years. So I think that was a wake-up call for most organizations, and the pharma industry is going to take a while to actually come around with a new avatar. I think the incumbent's problem remains, Ninad. I think the incumbent who is in the situation tends to downplay, and I think the industry has long been not enough customer-centric, and there is a need to do that. During pandemic, when there was no physical relationship-led marketing, which is the traditional way of marketing, when that channel was not available, digital was forced upon actually on the industry. In many ways, directly marketing got a chance to push content to doctors, which had earlier not been the primary way of engaging doctors. I think that opened eyes of organizations that this works. This is far more consistent, and doctors also have the option to ignore it, and they can access it anytime. So a lot of benefits started creeping in. I think today we have traveled a distance of maybe 20% of what we need to, but it's centered around actually managing more tactically what is required in these times. A lot of strategic decisions are yet to come about, but I think for sure, we saw a reverse migration happening in the country and demographic profiles changing. I think companies took notice of what's happening and also changed gear accordingly. Like we ran a large program, it's still going on for, on the rural digital marketing side, considering this phenomena. And likewise, we picked up different, opportunities which we thought made sense for the organization while we were still battling with the COVID side of ensuring treatment and the patient support ongoing. So a lot of our bandwidth went there, but still we were able to look at digital as a way to amplify voice of Cipla, voice of the brands, and take it to those corners where either traditionally we were weak or physically we were unable to penetrate those doctor communities. So it was a mixed bag. I think we've traveled a little distance only, Ninad. It's a long way to go. And I hope the incumbents, come out of the incumbent inertia as early as possible.
Absolutely. In fact, your line of thought on making sure that there is readiness within the first wave itself in terms of having allied solutions which are there towards COVID as a instead of vaccine, if there are any other remedies which are available. I understand, and I could notice it my own personally. For Remdesivir, there has been such a panic situation got created. There was a sudden surge of demand, and there were so many people who were wanting to have Remdesivir for the treatment of their near and dear ones. And then subsequently, it has been a substantial stock of medicines which got made available. I am sure during this course in time, forget about a layman's view, right? There has been massive amount of effort which would have gone into by the pharma industry to make these stocks available at the respective hospitals and respective health clinic for the treatments of the patient. I appreciate that one. Let me move on to Dr. Vishal. Dr. Vishal, your initial thoughts on what kind of, whether it has been pharma companies have taken this opportunity radically to think about changing the whole bunch of core business model towards bringing into the end customer relationship being stronger. Initial comments from your side.
See, here we have to think on two different aspects of technology. One is technology in manufacturing. All industries had it. Now we have to talk about technology pre-COVID and post-COVID. So post-COVID, technology adoption was an imperative,
Correct.
and all companies had to adopt technology. And the adoption of technology was very fast and was very imperative, and companies have adopted it at a very fast pace.
Right.
Even schools, hospitals, patients, students, companies all adopted at a pace which was much faster than what they have adopted in previous years. So the entire ecosystem has seen newer adoption and use of technology. And when you see pharma industry or healthcare industry, so they are serving patients, and now technology has come up as a new tool to serve the patients, wherein they are serving as a bridge to bring the customers or the patients with the offering of connecting with doctors or with the hospitals or with the pharmacies, and also providing telemedicine. And with all this, when you see, even pharma companies have to present their products to doctors and hospitals. So they have evolved up with a new avatar of how to go during these COVID times, and they have adopted digital medium, maybe through online meetings and all that, to avoid a more physical contact of their people with doctors. So all this have come, and virtual meetings have increased a lot, like we are doing right now. So post-COVID, business ecosystem has changed a lot, and we are scaling at a very new pace, and this will change much in global scenario in going forward. With this, I set up a tone.
Sure. Thanks, Dr. Vishal. In fact, see, during the COVID times, this was the only industry which was the most active, right? And only the healthcare workers were on the forefront. People like us who are there into CPaaS platform, communication is important and pretty critical in that particular nature. But we had leisure to sit back at home and work on our laptop in a cozy room and do virtual meetings and run the business. But I'm sure during this particular period, the opportunity which was given by the pandemic, unfortunately, for the pharma industry and healthcare industry to, as you said, it was imperative. There was no other alternative for the industry to adopt something which is far more useful, far more efficient, far more productive in that sense. So thanks for that. In fact, I wanted to understand from you as a please to really understand whether this change happened and how soon and how fast that change has happened and how fast this change is going to stay here, right? With that note, I would like to move on to Anil to understand his initial thoughts.
Thank you very much, Nath. It's a pleasure. Basically, COVID has changed us too much. You know, uncertainties were never there. We always had a very simple life and simple things going on. And suddenly we found uncertainty really made us so much handicapped that we had to adopt technology. And this technology was adopted in two areas in a very big way. One is, of course, on the education front, and the other is on the healthcare. On the education front, even today, a sweeper's son was taking education from his school on his father's mobile or mother's mobile, you know, which was never dreamt of. People will be taught their school lectures through this. So that was one on the education side, where teachers were also very accustomed with non-kind of physical kind of attachment with the students and all. Now they were giving lectures online and everything. On the healthcare front, we had doctors and patients. You know, they were basically always you had to go and wait for the doctor to call you inside the cabin. Now the doctor's chamber has come to your own home. You can get the doctor anywhere sitting at your home and take his advice. These advices could be through telemedicine, through healthcare, through phone call, Zoom line, and even a lot of other things have developed. Like you can send your ECG on the phone. You can send your pulse, oximeters. Everybody has today oximeter at home. Many people have got blood pressure equipments, diabetes equipments. Things have changed. Patients have started caring about themselves. Doctors have become very vigilant because now the business is online. You see, they cannot sit in their chamber and expect the patients to come to them. They were not, earlier they were reluctant to attend a phone call. Today they are available on Zoom line and everything. On the pharma front, we also saw very shortages of vaccines, and we could not import Russian vaccines because of the reason we did not have cold storages all over the country. So we realized our shortcomings. What were the shortcomings which India had? Even the vaccines which were available, it had to be also given to the world also. At the same time, your own patients were to be taken care. Lot of technological revolution has taken place. As you earlier said, that a decade of thing has been done within 2 years probably. We have moved probably 8 years ahead of time. So I think it's a good move.
Great, thanks. In fact, your thoughts on education brings me to my own personal experience. While my real sister, she is also a doctor and also a professor and head of department in one of the medical colleges. While pandemic was happening, she was busy setting up a entire lab for testing for their own institute. And then again, there were lectures to be conducted. All the students had gone back to their hometown. There were challenges in terms of finding devices on which the lectures could be conducted, not only from students' perspective, but also within the infrastructure of the college. Right? They were struggling big time in terms of setting up right kind of infrastructure to broadcast the lectures to the students which are spread across the country. Yeah, so many challenges which could got overcome in a shortest time possible, and thanks to the technology enablers, I would say.
Yeah.
They could be there on forefront while there was a big opportunity for them to make business. But at the same time, it has been a great challenge for them to facilitate such kind of technologies at a pace which was unprecedented earlier. Thanks.
Yeah.
I would like to move on to Kaushal for understanding his initial thoughts, and then we'll move on to maybe some other topic.
Sure. Thank you, Ninad. And I'm sitting here listening to my fellow panelists, and I couldn't agree more with what they had to say. My couple of points on how this is affecting healthcare as an industry has traditionally been very risk averse. So we are not well known for being at the forefront of core technology and cutting edge technology. I think there is a post-COVID, there is definitely a realization that maybe that needs to change. Where in my experience, I'm seeing a lot of healthcare pharma organizations are reevaluating product offerings and looking at something larger than just the product, and looking at what we call beyond the pill solutions on top of their products that they can offer to consumers, to our customers, and look towards ever slightly move towards a more service-based organizational design. Defining ecosystems, and I think a couple of people already talked about telemedicine, and it's nothing but an ecosystem designed to provide connectivity to our patients, to allow them access to world-class medicine, world-class physical practitioners, and allow them to be able to access them through the comfort of their homes. So that has enabled a new way of thinking, so to speak, in the industry, and I think I see that continuing past the pandemic as well, as we try and explore that a little bit more.
Fantastic. Thanks, Kaushal. Thanks for your insights on this. Let me move on to the second topic, which is of my interest, and obviously you would be experiencing this day in, day out. While we talk about trends in technology, and then there's a customer experience and patient engagement out here, while we are talking about healthcare and pharma industry out in particular. What are the key challenges that are there while interacting with different stakeholders within the pharma chain, so to say? While Kaushal talked about it's an entire ecosystem, I'm sure pharma chain has got its own dynamics. I would love to hear it from Anil and Dr. Subhash on this particular topic.
Yeah, basically in the pharma chain, there has been a lot of changes. People have started accepting everything online. You see, previously everything was required physical, a delivery challan is required physical, invoice is required physical, the check is required physical, everything was payment, right from every small point was a physical thing, which has totally changed now. You just send a photo of your check and the party knows that, okay, this payment will be done. You transfer the money. Most of the small patients and everybody, they used a lot of GPays and UPIs and other things, so the interaction, people started connecting themselves, which was through their mobile phones, so basically things have changed. Now everybody has become acceptable. The problem was change is never acceptable. People don't like changes, but in this case the changes were forced to them. If they don't do it, they can't move ahead, so that was the situation. They had to sit at their home and still do the business. They had to sit at the home, still have the meeting with the people. The people had to get business. They had to meet doctors. Everything had to go on, and in order to make it go on, everybody had to believe on the technology.
Got it.
And everybody entered into it very well, I would say. It's honorable for India. Not only India, but the world has also adopted technologies, and India being on the forefront of IT, I think we are much ahead in terms of volume of internet and transactions which we have, volume of interactions we have on the maximum number of conferences, seminar, and everything happened during this 2 years, rather, I would say. Physically, it is difficult to organize one seminar like this. Will take at least 1 month of preparation to be done, but if you're doing it on a virtual platform, the same thing can be done probably within a week or two. The time has cut short. So things, and lot of data is being generated. You see, patient data today, most of the hospitals, they scan your doctor's remark and store it. They scan the prescription and keep it. The pharmacy, e-pharmacies are taking the prescriptions and giving the medicines. So chemists are scanning the documents. These things were never seen in India. So it has really transformed. So all the stakeholders which are there connected with the healthcare, everybody has taken up technology with open arms. And now, in fact, people do not like to see faces. People just like, okay, fine, do it on a WhatsApp, do it on a GPay, we will have a virtual meeting. I doubt whether in future conferences, physical things are getting lesser and lesser. People have realized the advantages of doing the things at a fraction of a second without traveling. The traveling has reduced a lot. We have operations in Africa, so we control operations from here. We used to use Zoom and all since many years, but in this duration, I'm to say everybody is using it today. My person sitting in any corner of the world also, I can talk to him on this. Earlier, he was not acceptable. You start giving equipments to your people. Earlier, you were reluctant to give an iPad to your rep or iPad to your salespeople. Today, it is the in thing. You have to give them the iPads and iPhones and all kinds of stuffs to make him well connected with you. So today's technology is being connected.
Thanks, Anil. In fact, your statement of it put in a smile on me as well as Kaushal, while you mentioned saying that people don't want to see each other's face anymore now. right?
Hmm.
So it's a different topic to discuss and debate later. What are the after effects of having only virtual way of functioning? But yeah, I would like to.
I think it's on that note that people are scared to meet each other right now because of COVID, but people love to meet each other, and we cannot do business without meeting as a part of our culture, and we always love to meet each other, and that is why we have found an alternative to meet, that is virtual meeting, because meeting is business is done only by meetings, so virtual meeting is an alternative, and once the things are through, we will start meeting again. I think everybody will agree to it.
Yeah, my organization's productivity went up to 60% post-pandemic, rather during the pandemic, while we got everything virtual, right? So
Anilji,
so
you
as
are
to
also
create
meeting
many
your
businesses.
people on virtual meetings. If you don't like, I think you'll agree to my point that we love to meet each other, but we are scared right now because of COVID. So we are restraining from meeting because of this is what Mr. Ninad would like wants to. Maybe I may be wrong.
Sure, sure, sure. Yeah, thanks for
What
your
is your
perspective.
Anilji?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Are we on
Uh,
same page or not? I don't know.
Have you?
Are we on the same page?
Yes, yes. No, I am little bit different from your opinion. Because I have been functioning with Africa. You see, so I have been doing meetings virtually only. You
Okay.
know, very once in a 3 months I go for 10 days and have a round of all the Africa and then come back. But most of the controls I do, I run a factory, 3 factories sitting from India, which has 1800 workers. So virtually 1800 people I can control from here. For last 25 years I've been doing that. So I felt India is now doing virtual things, which is making things faster. You see, it's saving a lot of time. Today, you and I, we want to do a business deal. But in the first meeting, we know the business deal will not happen. But if we do a virtual meeting and then we meet, I think the deal will close very fast.
No, I take that cue, Anil, in terms of your tip on how to engage with businesses and close the deals. Thank you so much. Yeah, Kaushal, I would love to understand your viewpoint in terms of the kind of challenges which are being faced while interacting with different stakeholders within pharma chain, while things have shaped up in recent past, right?
Yeah, sure. So again, thank you, Anil and Vishal. I couldn't agree more with some of the points that you brought up. This new normal has been very difficult for all of us. I think we are all trying to define different ways of engaging, and of course, virtual meetings and virtual face-to-faces have replaced our physical meetings. Interacting with different stakeholders. A lot of stakeholders are on a different scale with respect to acceptance of this change. And there's always a challenge in trying to get them to the table to help them understand and get them on the same page. I think that's been, from my perspective, the biggest challenge we've faced. From an external environment standpoint, I think the industry has moved from a push mechanism to a push and pull mechanism. So earlier we were looking to provide information to our doctors through the medical reps that visited them. Today we have doctors themselves asking for information. Today we have patients, in fact, asking for information. So somehow the pandemic has forced us to go into a push and pull kind of a mechanism, and organizations have adjusted or trying to adjust to meet that particular demand, and hence the conversation around ecosystems and other services that are being provided to meet that particular challenge. That would be my perspective.
Okay, great. Thanks so much, Kaushal. In fact, I have a very follow-on question on this to Dr. Subhash. What are the steps that are needed to be undertaken to participate in evolving healthcare ecosystem? You have been associated with the Pharma Association, right? So I guess you have had interaction with multiple stakeholders within, not only within the ecosystem, but also from the regulatory standpoint of view, you would have certain cues on that. Would you like to comment on what kind of steps which needs to be undertaken to participate in evolving healthcare system?
Yeah, this is a very important question, and today everybody is searching for the new steps to be taken to cope up with the new situation, new normal. Actually, there are a lot of changes in different front. In the first, you can the technology front. There are a lot of technologies is evolving and giving very, very encouraging result, like adoption of artificial intelligence and the cloud technology. These are all different technologies you can utilize in different point of your manufacturing and business. Say, for example, that artificial intelligence is being utilized in case of data analysis of huge data analysis in case of the analysis of data gathered during conducting pharmacovigilance. And so you will see one trend that some IT companies, those who are working on behalf of different pharma companies, those who are doing clinical trial or doing pharmacovigilance, running pharmacovigilance program, they are recruiting a lot of personnel from pharmaceutical field for this data analysis. This is one area, and another very important area, the change of this ecosystem. That is, the pharma industry is shifting from industry towards the patient oriented. So engagement of patient and empowering them, that is another measures to be taken to cope up with the situation. Some of the companies, they have already taken such measures, like they are taking some project with patient group or patient advocacy groups, and they're also adopting some digital measures of patient engagement. A few examples are I can remember. One such example is this Lupin. They have introduced one Adhero technology for administering the inhalers. Another technology adopted by Abbott for disseminating knowledge on diabetes management. So these are a few, digital technologies adopted already. I do not know what are the other companies. I may left some other companies. They have already taken some measures or adopted digital technologies. And the core issue is this: in case of healthcare, we need the better therapeutic outcome, whoever may be the stakeholder. One manufacturer, they are producing medicine for the best benefit of the patient. Similarly, one doctor, he or she also expecting the best result. So the perception and the some result of some survey reveals that the engagement of the patient in your loop, that will give you more result. So the patient engagement and empowering may be another measure to get the best benefit. This is all about my perception.
Thanks so much, Doctor. I would like to understand a perspective from Sumit and Kaushal in terms of what are the new marketing tools that are driving the pharma business strategy in the new normal, right? From the perspective of customer experience and patient engagement. I would like Sumit to chime in and subsequently Kaushal to add on to the kind of marketing tools, and if at all it is feasible for you to touch base upon the new technology tools which are being adopted, that also would be fantastic.
Sure. So Ninad, let me first start with on the doctor front. And that's where I think a lot of action is happening still. And there, beyond teleconsultation, one of the things I think was mentioned by a panel member here was on the fact that doctors, there's a push plus pull that's happening. So one of the pulls that we have been, championing as Cipla is to have a gateway which is centralized for any video watching for our doctors. So we run an OTT platform which allows doctors to watch from a plethora of videos that Cipla has been collating over years through our Cipla Med effort, and making sure that there is a single gateway which is easily searchable. So a young chest physician or a young consulting physician would be able to, just like a YouTube search, be able to come on the platform, look for stuff, and actually be surprised because we have a huge library of video collection. It's also incidentally the only single platform for all events or webinars that we do with our doctors. So sort of, it's called Cipla Medics.
Okay,
It's
interesting.
one such video initiative which is sort of centralizing all the outreach, touch points with the doctors. And for a company like Cipla, which has, sorry, one second. Company like Cipla, which has many teams meeting the same doctor. Also, it's many a times a duplication of effort for the doctor to see multiple teams. So when there is a centralized video platform, he does not have to depend upon an individual anymore. He gets notifications, and now that platform also has news section, so it allows a doctor to be updated with whatever medical news is happening in his practice twice a week. So that's one such initiative, a set of tools which we've sort of borrowed from the other industries where it's moved forward. However, I think there is a lot that even the iPad of the medical rep can do.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think it's so far pre-pandemic usage has been very, very restricted. But the ability of a rep to be in touch with his doctor even when he's not in the clinic of the doctor, using one-to-one emailers, closed loop marketing, I think those are more lower hanging fruits on which the industry is trying to maximize what is possible. That's on the doctor front. On the patient front, I think it varies drastically, right from the point that when a patient is searching for certain symptoms online, how well is a pharma company allowing that search to direct him into a journey, which eventually not only helps the pharma company but also gives a lot more information for a patient to chew, which allows him to manage his condition much better.
Right.
So some initiatives, I think early days where some work is happening. The other is where, in respiratory medicine, when we said inhalers, inhalers are a difficult, market for patients to get used to. So how do we train our patients to start using an inhaler the right way, such that it helps him, in managing his condition better? I think though there are some digital tools around that where Cipla has taken lead, and we may be running the largest patient support program in respiratory, on that front. There's a lot that's happening, but very subscale in terms of patient. At the doctor's side, there is still some scale that's happened with marketing tools. But I think the center of gravity is yet not shifted from doctor to patient.
Right.
A lot more action you can expect on the patient side as tools mature, especially on the diagnosis, remote diagnosis side.
Got it. Got it. Yeah, Kaushal, you would want to chime in on this aspect?
Yes, sure. So I think huge strides have been made in the digital space when it comes to customer experience, patient engagement. And I think you can say this is an effect of what our consumers and customers expect as an experience. We are all users of the Amazons and Ubers of the world, and somehow our experience with those service providers, sort of percolate into what we expect our experience can be with our healthcare providers, right? And there are a lot of interesting use cases to do exactly that. So you can see today, on the doctor side, there are analytics being built. There's a hyper-connected platform being built so that as doctors communicate with you, as our medical reps communicate with our doctors, they have an understanding of the questions, comments that the doctors had in previous conversations, and can have more intelligent conversations and more customized conversations with our doctors, simply because they now have historical information around what the doctor had asked for, and sort of can bring that into the conversation that they're currently having with their HCPs. On the patient side, there are a lot of initiatives that are happening where it's trying to test new and emerging technology. And one I can talk about is around digital therapeutics, where you can look at using wearable devices that measure your blood pressure, for example, and feed that periodical measurement into an app, and allow your doctor to get not a point in time blood pressure reading, which typically what happens today, but essentially a sort of a graph of how the blood pressure reading has been over the past month or so, allowing the doctor to take a look at where there was a high or a low incidence in a blood pressure and try and understand why the underlying cause might be for those peaks or troughs, and try and treat the underlying life condition rather than just relying on a point in time reading and trying to decipher it and trying to treat for that. So there are a lot of emerging technologies like that, and primarily in my experience on the patient side, that have helped us to understand patient needs, understand our doctor needs a little bit better, and try and solve for them. From another patient perspective, today you do Google search for items that for questions that you might have, and Google provides you an answer. Using AI and machine learning, you can kind of, if somebody conducts a search for, let's say, diabetes or symptoms of diabetes, you can estimate that this individual is either themselves suffering from early stage or diabetes, or somebody they love is suffering from that. And using that information, you can try and do targeted messaging to them for information that they may be looking for on diabetes, and not only talk about symptoms, but talk about what they need to see, the diet that they need to follow, doctors in their, based on their maybe location, doctors in their nearby location that they can visit to kind of do a proper diagnosis, help them do an online quiz for them to themselves assess whether they may be diabetic or not, and then channel them over to some kind of an ecosystem that helps them manage their disease, treat their disease, and live with their disease for the rest of their lives. So again, a lot of advent of emerging technology is helping us bridge that gap between what really the consumer and doctor wants and what we are providing, and trying to change that so that we are more closer to what the original ask is from our end consumer.
Fantastic. Thanks for those insights. In fact, the post-treatment care is so very essential in that particular sense, right? In terms of having the overall experience, which not only gets done throughout the life cycle of a patient, which is connected to the hospital during his treatment or her treatment. Post-treatment, there is a lot of recovery. The recovery period is so very critical. And within that recovery period, if at all the patient care has been taken in an appropriate manner with right kind of signaling, right kind of alerts, right kind of updates on the due course of time, what needs to be done and what need not have to be done by the patient. That's a critical aspect. Thanks for touch basing on that particular element per se. I guess I would request all of you to summarize your thoughts in maybe a couple of minutes, because we might run out of time, and we still need to take some of the questions which have been posted here. But I would request Dr. Vishal to summarize your viewpoint overall.
So we were talking about AI, machine learning, technology. So whatever technology can add value to the employee productivity and a better healthcare should be adopted as per Indian ecosystem, looking into mind of our employees and in enhancing their productivity and enhancing the healthcare of the patients. Now, when we talk about that, so whatever patient education we are giving should be given in such a way that it could be preventive healthcare system or healthcare analysis, but not leading to self-medication. So looking that while we are graduating towards healthcare system where currently we are completely on a doctor-based healthcare ecosystem currently. So healthcare advice or the education should be given to patients. It could be predictive or it could be quiz based, as Mr. Kaushal suggested, but it could be to analyze that, okay, under these circumstances, you could be having so and so disease, or you could be looking so and so disorder, and you could be having so and so ailments after so many years, and you could take advice of XYZ kind of practitioners. Secondly, when we talk about use of AI and ML, it could be used in much way for R&D purposes, and it could reduce the research timeline to a big extent. So on these lines, we can use technology to enhance the productivity of our people and to give better healthcare for the people. Thirdly, we can use technology not only for bridging gap between stakeholders, but also for enhancing the productivity at the production side and reducing the cost of the product, such that India can always remain more economical, and we can give the products at a much economical price as always, and we can remain have the competitive advantage as always. So with this, I conclude on my side.
Thanks, Dr. Vishal. Anil, you would like to sum it up?
Yeah. Basically, I look at it from the point of view, what is the future going to look like? The future would be people are already doing, patient is becoming more preventive care and rather more taking care of his wellness, because during the COVID time, he could not visit the doctor and all. So many people even avoided major illnesses and postponed their surgeries and everything, and they found things were normal, So when they found that, they have now become more preventive rather than curing. Even the pharma company is shifting more towards nutrition rather than towards treatments. Things are changing. Like today, you have yoga sessions being conducted online, and there are 50 people doing yoga along with you. Similarly, you could tomorrow give a diabetes seminar for the patients to all over the world, on diabetes. So such kind of summits would be beautiful for future. I expect even on the delivery supply chain management, drones will come within 1 year, and you will find all your medicines getting delivered through drones. Even robo doctor, I would expect a robo doctor in the future to come into place, where you have basically a majority of your treatments can be done through this robo doctor. Instead, we just have entered robotic surgery, but I feel robo doctor is the most easiest thing to do. So that would be the another few developments which I feel we can go in those directions.
Yeah. Thanks, Anil. In fact, drone delivery is a reality in some of the states. The state government could deliver vaccine to the remotest village via the drone delivery as such. And to the point of robo doctors, right? During my childhood rather, I always look forward to have AI being the Japanese robo nurse, right? Which was being showcased on the television, saying that, hey, this is the nurse which does most of the routine tasks which have been given to her. And robo doctors, that soon it could be a reality for sure. While virtual assistants are taking shape in form in terms of gathering knowledge on one side of it through the big data and AI, which is topping it up and giving right kind of diagnosis, right kind of treatment, right kind of assistance to patient purely on some of the wearable devices, meta information which has been shared it across on a conversational messaging channel. So those are pretty much forming as a reality. Thanks for touch basing on this.
I would just like to add one more point. Maybe we will see soon Dr. Instead of Alexa, we'll see Dr. Alexa now, probably shortly.
Possible, very much possible.
Yeah.
Dr. Subhash, you would like to come in and sum it up?
Well, I would like to summarize this. Like the pharmaceutical industry is going change with a very fast pace, and this COVID pandemic pushed to go further. And pharma industry of India was called as the pharmacy of the world. But now there is a paradigm shift, and now it is being an innovation hub because our own industry has developed their own vaccine with their own technology. This may be the beginning to make our country as an innovation hub. So we are proud of pharma industry in our country. They made us proud during this COVID. And the companies, those who have produced a number of medicines for the treatment of COVID or prevention of COVID, that is exemplary, and kudos to them. And finally, the situation has turned to a point that now the patient are getting really importance in the healthcare system. So that will give us a right direction. So I would like to conclude with this.
Thank you, Dr. Subhash. Sumit, you would want to conclude and sum it up from your perspective?
Yeah, so Ninath, from my point of view, I think the COVID period has been an eye-opening episode, but I think the re-engineering that the industry is doing right now will move towards a redesign, which would have the center of gravity shifting from doctor to patients. And I think my panelists have spoken about preventive health being more important. And yes, that's the direction in which the industry also is working. I think two shifts that will happen fundamentally for pharma, where customer engagement and patient engagement will be, customer experience and patient engagement will be at the heart, is one that the diagnosis part of the funnel will exponentially go up because we can do a lot easier diagnosis digitally, and there are now tools that will be made available. So more number of people can early detect their conditions and of course be able to take preventive actions where possible. And wherever there is a curation or a curative care happening, their patient compliance will go up as the awareness of their conditions becomes more closer to the patients than before. I think these two fundamental trends I see will happen, and I think the panel has also touched upon them. That's all.
Sure. Thanks, Sumit. Kaushal, you would like to come in?
Sure, and I think to summarize, I'd like to leave everyone with one thought that we are fortunate enough to be living in exciting times. Yes, the COVID pandemic has been terrible, from all intents and purposes. But what that has enabled is the pharma industry, which traditionally has been very risk averse, turn the corner in the sense that try and see new and emerging technology to try and adopt an emerging technology for the betterment of the healthcare industry, the betterment of patients themselves. And speaking from that perspective, I think it's an exciting time where new and emerging technology, which always existed, but today there is an appetite to use that and try and pilot that and experiment that for the betterment of our patients. And as a fellow professional in the healthcare industry, nothing excites me more than that.
Great. Thank you so much. Garima, I guess we have covered the topic very well, and thanks to the panelists, it has been greatly insightful. But I'm sure there are a lot of audience which are watching this particular session pretty much live while we are streaming it. Are there any questions which can be taken up, Garima?
Yes, we have a couple of questions, and I'd like to begin with one that's pretty interesting, which says, how can AI-driven chatbots provide personalized experience? And this has come from Vishal Singh from ACS.
Can I take that up my own self?
Yeah, sure. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. So being there in CPaaS industry and we being the market leaders at Gupshup, right? So chatbots have been the core of as you understand, conversation is the core of overall healthcare out there. While a patient and doctor conversation, or it could be engagement of the patient with the hospital, it needs to be driven in a manner it is appropriate, right? So the conversation needs to lead to understanding what the patient has been going through, what are the kind of ailments which are there, what kind of symptoms which are being looked at by the particular patient, and doctors need to advise in an appropriate manner. So AI-driven chatbots are the reality as of today, while the electronic health record of the patient is pretty much there on the health system of most of the leading hospital chains which we are interacting and engaged with. So those are enabling us with the big data understanding as to what are the specific symptoms for a specific ailment which are coming on a regular basis. What are the frequency of visits of different set of patients which are coming in regularly for the same set of ailments, right? So the chatbots are far more convenient than that of picking up a phone and talking to someone and waiting for an IVR revert to come in. The wait time is long. While we talk about healthcare industry, the response is expected is very immediate, right? And gratification as an instant gratification for the patient is the fundamental aspect of the overall experience which is required to be done. Now, the chatbots are taking over the overall conversation which are happening between a patient and a doctor, or a patient and a nurse for that matter, for some of the very high frequency queries which are being posted by various patients per se. So while there is a history of a patient which is being backed up within the conversation as such, with the records being pretty much available at the database level, which the chatbot is intelligent enough to understand what the patient has gone through in recent past or historically. It is far more intelligent now to address a very personalized conversation to any patient which is coming on board, right? So the channels could be anything. The channel could be voice, the channel could be say WhatsApp, which is far more dominant now, which is being engaged by patient with the healthcare system as of today.
Thank you. Thanks. There is another question which says, what kind of upskilling is needed to be a part of this tech-driven pharma sector now? And this has come from Manan. So any of the panel?
Yeah.
Yes.
Upscaling, basically the upscaling will be more on the data analytics part. You know, the data analytics, people are accumulating data of patient profile, patient's illness, patient eating habits, patient's day-to-day routines, and all kinds of stuffs are being monitored. Diabetic patch are being given, diabetes sugar levels are being monitored. So many data are being generated. This all data, once it is tabulated for a particular person, that particular person can have a good health, probably because his everything is under monitoring, you know. So he can keep on getting robotic advices or bot kind of feedback that you should do this. Like when you wear an iWatch, after a certain time, they say you should take a breathing exercise for 1 minute or something, you know. So something similar lines, things will change too, where you would be a normal human being, but you are being advised by the lot many data which people has been collected from your body. And those data are being advised to you to do a walk now, or to probably eat less for the evening, or whatever, based on what is going on into your body, you know. So I feel that is where this upscaling will go. The patient will be more important, as everybody has pointed out. Things will get patient-centric, you know.
Right.
So that's what I feel.
If I can,
Would anybody? Yeah, sure.
If I can add to what Anil said. So we talked about data, and data is going to be, in my opinion, a very key field. You know, data science especially is going to be a very key field from a upskilling standpoint, because as we move towards this, you know, digital journey, we are going to generate a lot of data, and the ability to sift through that data and sort of drive insights out of that data, insights that benefit the patient, insights that benefit the pharmaceutical organization. I think that is going to be a key skill set, in addition to obviously the digital technologies that we talked about. So those two things I would add to, you know, add to what Anil said. And then from a soft skills standpoint, I think the ability to innovate and to think outside of the box, I think that's critical as well. Thank you.
Right. And Vishal has been very, sorry, yeah, please go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, no, sorry, Garam, make your point, then I'll come back. There are a couple of other things I wanted to add.
Absolutely. I was just mentioning that Dr. Vishal has been very kind enough to answer these queries over the chat also. So thank you, sir. Thank you so much. And sir, please go ahead.
Okay.
Chandna, you can please. Yeah.
I can continue. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I think
Can you say that upskilling of pharma industry per se, then it become data, process, SOP, or your automation. All these things need to be set together with your manufacturing processes, and you need to automate it and streamline it and continuously monitor it and upgrade it for a better technology adoption, and map it with your good manufacturing practices as and when it is upgraded to the best of the international standards. So that is on the manufacturing side. And whatever the data and the big data you have, it should be in a proper way analyzed, as you well, one of the panelists well said, such that the data can be used to the productive way, and it could be used for manufacturing, for research, and for better processes optimization, so that the results can come in and products can be manufactured in a more cohesive way, more better way, and with a for optimum growth and delivery to patients and newer drug delivery.
Right. Please go ahead, Mr. Chandna.
Yeah, two more skills which for youngsters who are looking at this area, I think once data science picks up, I think very strong UI UX skills are also required, because end of the day, when the right metrics are picked up, I think appropriate visualization and ability for it to be read by the user, and the fact that it can make a impact on the user, I think that will require UI UX skills, which is again not available that many in plenty. And then comes the whole sphere of behavior science, because end of the day, again, having metrics is one thing, but making sure that you are appropriately nudging behavior change in a scientific manner, is another field called behavior science, where I see a lot of at least writings happening, and hopefully that's an area where upskilling will add an edge to individuals as well.
Right. I think I'll just take probably one more question. It says, how can organization prepare itself effectively to deal with this seismic shift in the evolving healthcare ecosystem? And this is come from Mr. Prabhakar Kalambe from Infinite Solutions. So if any of the panelists, yeah.
I can try and answer that. I think organizations need to first understand what offerings they have, what does the market need, and try and bridge the gap between what you have versus what the market demands. And if they see a gap, try and fit that. I think as we move more and more towards the patient side, more and more towards our customer side, I think it's important to understand the world from their perspective. So understanding, keeping patient centricity at the core of how you design your ecosystem, understanding how a patient views the systems that you've laid out for them is going to be of critical importance, because remember, you're not defining these systems for yourselves, you're defining it for them. So it's important that their use and their ease of use, so to speak, is kept primary of concern, and we build the wrappers around that. So I think patient centricity, when we talk about it, it's about keeping the customer or the patient at the center of the universe, rather than keeping yourself as an industry expert in the center, and then defining that based on how he would view the system rather than how you would view it.
Dr. Mandal, anything from you as the last word?
Done.
So anything, any point from you on this question as the last word before we can wrap this session up?
I think as Mr. Shetty has pointed out, I think we are moving towards patient-centric, customer-centric. So in the patient-centric, we will be now deriving that a patient can go through in his life cycle through what, and how each company would address to a particular part of that patient, and how his like today Amazon looks after all your deliveries and supply chain, and you can get anything from the world. Similarly, doctors will be able to provide the patient everything, whatever illnesses he has, everything will be available on the spot on his mobile, which doctor to go, where to go, what kind of surgeries are taking place, what kind of treatments are there for this, everything would come in nutshell form for the patient. So the patient is the main beneficiary here in future. Yeah.
Right.
Thank
Okay.
you. I'll try
Perfect. Thank
something
you.
here.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
See, at the end, the question is how organization is going to try to give what they have in store to the patients, right? Or to the healthcare system. So here the best thing is that how we connect the dots. So I give you a very good example. India had a COVID vaccination program, and looking to the size and dynamics of Indian population, we had a huge population, but Indian government made a very good mechanism wherein your mobile and your Aadhaar was linked, and vaccination was very easily done. We achieved 100 crore vaccination very easily. So this is how technology can be adopted to reach what you have in store to the consumer at last end who is seeking your thing, what you have, and to whom you want to deliver. Similarly, what you have, if you have pharmaceutical product or a healthcare product or alternative product, you want to deliver something for a particular cause, how you want to deliver for that, what alternatives you can have. This is how it can be achieved.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you so much, everyone, for your in-depth insights and for this wonderful session. Please accept a small token from the ELETS Digital Pharma team in the form of these virtual certificates. And we have the first one for Dr. Subhash C. Mandal for your valuable inputs and expertise at the Pharma Summit. Thank you so much, sir, for your kind presence. The next one we have for Mr. Kaushal Shetty. Thank you so much, Mr. Shetty, for being here this afternoon. We were really honored to have you.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Mr. Sumit Channa, thank you so much for your pointed insights into the sector, and looking forward to connect with you again in the future. Thank you so much for your presence here. Thank you, sir. Dr. Vishal Rajgaria, thank you so much for taking out time and being part of this ELETS Digital Pharma Summit. Thank you so much, sir. And Dr. Anil Gidwani, thank you so much for being here, and it was lovely to hear you and your views, sir.
Thank you.
To our moderator, Mr. Ninad Takpere, for wonderfully moderating this session and taking this interaction into this very lively manner. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here, and it was lovely listening to all of you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, ELETS, for connecting us. It was really a great pleasure. We got a great insight from all the panelists. It was really great. Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thanks, Anand, for being a great host.
Yeah, thank you so much. Pleasure was mine.
Thank you, Ninad.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Ninad.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Mr. Sumit, Mr. Kaushal, and Mr. Subhash. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gidwani.
Thank you.